At 6:02 a.m., I woke up to the sound of metal getting torn apart right outside my bedroom window. By the time I hit the front door, my rainwater tanks were split open, water was rushing down my driveway like a flash flood, and Linda Whitman, president of our Homeowners Association, was standing there with a clipboard watching it happen, like she was approving a hedge trim. In under 10 minutes, 800 gallons were gone, my system was destroyed, and she looked me dead in the face and said, "You were notified, Mr. Hayes." My name is Sebastian Hayes. I'm an electrician, and I live in Willow Creek Estates outside Fort Worth. I'm not flashy, I don't throw parties, I don't start neighborhood wars. I work pay bills, keep my yard clean, and mind my own business. The rain system I built wasn't some backyard science project. It was permitted, inspected, screened, and fully compliant first flush diverter, sealed food-grade tanks, mosquito barriers, overflow, routing UV treatment for non-potable use, the whole thing documented and legal. I built it because Texas summers are brutal and water costs are no joke. I also built it because I help support the community garden behind the mailbox cluster where retirees grow produce that actually offsets groceries. When I first moved in, people warned me about Linda in that just between us voice. She likes control, don't end up on her radar. If she doesn't like something, she'll call it a violation until you quit. I thought they were exaggerating. Then the first letter hit my door. Unsightly exterior utility containers. $200 per day fine. Correct within 48 hours. No courtesy call, no request to discuss screening changes, no site visit. Just punishment first. I emailed everything she could possibly ask for: permit number, inspection, sign-off installation, photos, local code references. I even offered to add another visual barrier, even though the tanks were already behind shrubs. She replied with 2 lines. County approval does not supersede Homeowners Association standards. Remove all tanks immediately. At the next HOA meeting, I stood up during homeowner comments and asked one simple question. Can you cite the exact covenant section and line I'm violating? Linda flipped tabs in a binder, said aesthetics and harmony, and skipped the actual citation. I asked again, calm, specific, on record. She smiled and said legal counsel would provide details later. They never did. Instead, I started getting layered notices. Potential vector hazard. Potential standing water concern. Unauthorized utility modification. The wording changed every week like they were testing what might stick. A city inspector came out, checked every fitting and valve, and passed the system. Next morning, another HOA notice showed up anyway, calling my setup industrial equipment incompatible with neighborhood character. That phrase, neighborhood character, became her all-purpose weapon. Anything she didn't personally like became a community risk. Meanwhile, violations at board-friendly houses somehow stayed invisible. A rusted trailer parked for weeks, ignored. A side yard structure with no matching finish, ignored. Unscreened bins visible from the street, ignored. But my legal system tucked behind landscaping was suddenly a civic emergency. Then the real damage started. Not to me at first, to the garden. Without stable supplemental water beds started drying out fast in the heat. Tomatoes split, greens bolted, pepper plants scorched at the edges. Beverly Palmer, who coordinates volunteers, called me one afternoon while I was parked outside a service job. "Seb, we're carrying buckets now. Some of the older folks can't keep doing this." That call stuck with me hard. This wasn't a paperwork fight anymore. People were paying for Linda's ego in heat and exhaustion. I tried one last good faith path. I requested mediation through the Homeowners Association process, offered additional screening, and asked for a compliance checklist in writing. I got silence for 6 days, then another fine notice. That night I sat at my kitchen table with a stack of letters, an unpaid repair estimate, and a calculator open on my phone. Between fines, lost equipment, and legal consults, I was staring at numbers that made me think for one long minute maybe I should just rip everything out and walk away. I even pictured it renting a trailer, hauling the tanks to the dump, letting the board win, getting my weekends back. No meetings, no emails, no certified mail receipts, no watching my front door for another violation slip. Then Beverly texted me a photo from the garden. 2 seniors in sun hats passing a 5-gallon bucket between raised beds, both of them smiling like this was normal. Under the photo she wrote, "We'll keep trying, but this isn't sustainable." That was it. I wasn't done. If I was going to lose, I was at least going to lose with the truth fully documented. I stopped arguing emotionally and started building a case like a job site audit. Date-stamped timeline, every notice, every email, every meeting, minute, every inspection report. Photos of selective enforcement across the neighborhood tagged by covenant category. I backed everything up in 3 places, local drive cloud folder and printed binder with tabs. That's when Janet Morrison stepped in. Retired city council member sharp as a scalpel, lives 2 streets over. She asked me whether I was using the board's summary booklet or the original recorded covenants filed with the county. I had the booklet. She said that's interpretation. We need governing text. We pulled the recorded documents. Buried in the original language was a conservation clause allowing water-saving infrastructure as long as it met health and safety codes. My system did, and I had official inspection proof. The board's summary had watered that section down to near meaninglessness. Convenient if your goal is control. From that point, everything became procedural. I filed a formal records request for all violations issued in the last 18 months with outcomes by address category. I filed a consumer complaint with the state for selective enforcement and retaliatory action. Tom Henderson, a licensed master plumber in the neighborhood, inspected my setup and signed a technical statement confirming compliance above baseline standards. I also sent certified notice that unauthorized entry onto my lot would be treated as trespass. A week later, Linda called and asked to meet privately to de-escalate. We met on the clubhouse patio under a ceiling fan that clicked every few seconds like a metronome. She slid a pre-written agreement across the table. I removed the tanks voluntarily, fines considered resolved, and I signed non-disparagement language. She called it a practical compromise for neighborhood peace. I asked one question. What's the board's replacement water plan for the community garden during restrictions if conservation systems are banned? She didn't hesitate. The garden is optional. Property values are not. Then she leaned forward and lowered her voice. You're smart enough to know when to stop making this bigger. That sentence did me a favor. It removed any doubt about motive. I upgraded everything. Tamper-resistant valve housings, flow sensors with timestamp logs, dual camera coverage on legal property angles, clearly posted compliance placards with permit and inspector references. No more hallway conversations, no phone calls without follow-up email, no verbal agreements. Paper trail only. Beverly organized residents and gardeners for the next board meeting. Janet assembled a clean packet anyone could understand, recorded covenant excerpts, city inspection sign-offs, enforcement comparison matrix timeline with exhibits. Tom wrote a plain language technical summary so nobody could hide behind jargon. Meeting night was packed. Normally, maybe a dozen people show up. That night we had standing room only. Retirees, young families, absentee owners on proxy, and a local neighborhood reporter covering HOA disputes. Linda opened with the same script community harmony uniform standards protecting homeowner value. Then she moved for emergency authority to remove my non-conforming apparatus at my expense. Janet stood and read the recorded conservation clause into the mic, word for word, with county recording reference. She passed copies down every row. You could feel the room shift, pages turning whispered, wait, what moments board members looking at each other instead of at Linda. Beverly spoke next. No drama, just facts. Household participation, produce loss after water cutoff. Volunteer heat, strain out-of-pocket replacement costs. Tom followed with system safety facts and inspection proof. I presented the timeline and selective enforcement data. Same covenant categories, different treatment depending on who lived where. Linda started interrupting everyone. She cut off comments, banged the gavel, and snapped, I decide what is relevant in this room. The reporter wrote that down immediately. One board member asked legal counsel on record whether forced removal or damage of permitted homeowner equipment without court authority could expose the association to liability. Counsel paused and said, I recommend immediate closed session and document preservation. First crack. Second crack came that same night. At 11:43 p.m., after adjournment, one of my cameras captured a board-linked maintenance contractor entering my side yard and striking a valve housing with a pry bar. Clear face, clear truck plate, clear timestamp. I called dispatch. Officers arrived, reviewed footage on site, documented damage, and took statements. The contractor said he was following instruction. I asked the officer to include that exact phrase in the report. He nodded and did. By sunrise, this was no longer a neighborhood squabble. It was an evidence chain with official records. An emergency board session was called next morning. Association counsel advised immediate suspension of all enforcement tied to my property, legal hold on internal communications, and independent review of prior actions. Linda was removed as board president pending investigation into retaliatory enforcement, unauthorized interference with homeowner property, and breach of fiduciary duties. 2 committee allies resigned within the week. The Homeowners Association issued written reversal of my fines, recognized my system as compliant under recorded covenants, and adopted a revised enforcement protocol, exact rule citation, required equal application logging, independent appeals, and strict prohibition on unilateral physical action without legal authority. Insurance got involved on the demolition claim. Repair invoices were filed. Evidence packets were preserved. Friday morning, before heading to a panel replacement job, I reopened the irrigation line to the garden. Drip emitters clicked row by row, and the soil darkened like somebody turning power back on in stages. Beverly texted me one sentence: "Summer plan is back." No party, no speeches, no victory photos. Just the person who abused power hitting the one wall she thought didn't apply to her consequences. Authority can be loud. Accountability is louder.